Joining me now is Chief Lianne Tuomey of the University of Vermont Police Services. Chief Tuomey, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you.
What can leaders do to build trust and strengthen relationships with the LGBTQ plus communities?
Well, I think building trust with any community that has been marginalized or felt like they haven't had the same services provided to them of any police agency is to do outreach, to get to know the community in the areas of fair and impartial policing. Contact theory is really important, and I think that it's, as leaders of our departments, it's incumbent upon us to get out and touch the bases with all of the different groups, and in particular the LGBTQ plus communities, because they have their own set of challenges. Mm-hmm. So it's about building relationships.
And so how do you do that? I mean, physically, is it hitting the streets, walking through neighborhoods? Is it, bringing everybody together in group settings and hearing from them? And
I always think that the best thing to do is to meet people where they are, right? To find where people come together. Culturally, there are very often meeting places for LGBTQ folks who have their safe places, and to reach out to them in those spaces, to be willing to be there and be seen, and to join and collectively be a part of and integrate into those different communities.
One of the things that so many members of this community face is they're victims of sexual violence. How can police agencies encourage the reporting of that? Because I think we all know a lot of it does go unreported.
Well, all sexual violence goes unreported, but even more so in these communities who are experiencing and have experienced great fear from policing, distrust around the collective response of the criminal justice system, but perhaps policing in general. And as we all know, it only takes one instance that spreads throughout a culture or a community of hearing of something happening that breaks that trust and makes it more difficult. And these are really difficult situations, and people that are in the LGBT community have some additional challenges in that perhaps they're not out. Perhaps they're afraid of what's going to happen to their community if this gets out. What are the repercussions that are far more far-reaching for any victim of sexual violence or relationship violence, but even more so in these communities that are also subjected to further scrutiny.
Chief, why is it important that police chiefs, leaders of police agencies, kind of assess how their department is dealing with these communities?
Well, I think in assessing, we also create a framework in which we can do the work in building our integration into the communities that we serve. So one of the things that IACP has developed is this great assessment tool about kind of how are we doing with our communities of color? How are we doing, or what are some ideas and thoughts on that? And this assessment piece in this tool also provides a framework in which to think about the work that we're doing. It's a really great document that they've put together that's available electronically, and we just, as leaders, need to be willing to think beyond our own comfort zones, mm-hmm. And be willing to reach out and be part of these communities, because we can't understand them. So if we want people to come to us, we have to work with those communities and partner with them and collaborate with them and be able to be empathetic, because there's just too much for our officers to try to understand. So these assessment tools give us a really concrete way to think about that.
All right. Chief Lianne Tuomey, thank you very much for joining us.
Great, thanks.